Hello and welcome back to the Spiritual Gangster Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Piraldi, and today for our Guest Spotlight Wednesday, we have Rachel Smith with us, a nurse practitioner, women's health advocate, and founder of Aspect Wellness. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me, Amanda. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. So for those of you who may not know yet, can you introduce yourself a little bit more and tell us what it is that you do?
Sure. I'm Rachel Smith, and as you mentioned, I'm the founder of Aspect Wellness. I have worked as a nurse practitioner for 20 years,
Oh my
and it's
goodness.
a little crazy for me to say, but I started my career as a nurse midwife, actually, and I delivered over 1,000 babies in the first about 12 years of my career. And then I hit kind of a pivot point and, as so many of us do, realized I needed to make a little bit of a transition. That's the beautiful thing about nursing. Once you've entered the doorway of nursing, there are so many hallways you can go
So
down that
many
take
avenues.
directions. So I was able to actually went back to school, got a second master's degree, got my doctorate degree, and many different turns later, and I am doing the work that I currently do, which is a longevity focus for women. What I saw as a huge gap in the work that I'd been doing up till about 2 years ago was that nobody was having the important conversations with women that would really help them move the needle because they were so often just focused on their weight because that's how we as women were encultured,
Absolutely.
um, in our coming of age years that if we were healthy, we were at our ideal weight. And if we were not at our ideal weight, we weren't healthy. And that was really the only marker that we measured. And that falls so far short for women. What the things that we need to perform at our best and feel at our best and age robustly go far beyond the scale. In fact, I would really love to just throw the scale out.
Right? Absolutely. I think it's so much better to just go with how you feel, how and even just looking in the mirror, like you can tell or clothes, I'd rather judge my clothes and see, hey, is that fitting a little looser? Is that a little bit snug today? And gauge it from that because that scale, you were right, it can be a real, you know what.
It can be. It can be. So I have a private practice and I'm licensed in 6 states. I live and work in Florida, but I'm licensed in 6 different states where I take care of women. And the issues that we deal with are cardiometabolic. They are, driven by the high stress lives that the women I work with lead. They are growing and scaling companies. They're managing kids that are anywhere from adolescents to college age or adults. They're managing aging parents and relationships and the menopausal transition all at once.
Right?
And I don't know where you're at in that journey,
Oh,
but
I'm in perimenopause. I'm in there.
yeah, it throws a curveball to many women that they just were not expecting. They're used to showing up at 110%, and I want them to be able to keep doing that. So I give them the tools
Oh, that's
and
wonderful. That's fantastic. So from going from a nurse midwife and then eventually creating this Aspect Wellness, what was it that initially just inspired you? Did you just want to carry on, like do a little bit more, like do more for women, or what was it?
well, there were several transitions along the way. It started with my own perimenopause journey, to be fully transparent. Working as a nurse midwife, it's beautiful work. Meeting women at that life transition, giving birth, helping them through pregnancy and beyond. I loved every minute of it except for 4 a.m. 4 a.m. phone calls, 4 a.m., when you've been awake for 72 hours and, you're falling asleep standing up at the end of somebody's bed
Mm.
while they've been pushing for 3 hours. It's grueling, grueling work. And the stress is incredibly high. And what I experience is what so many women experience, that stress lands differently when your hormones begin to get chaotic. And what's crazy to me, looking back, is that I was a women's health specialist. I was having conversations with women about how their hormones impact their body every day for the last 12 years. And I didn't realize that what I was experiencing at the time was the impact of perimenopause. I really thought that I was, that I had acquired some crazy autoimmune condition and that I was,
Oh, no.
things were bad. It was bleak. Um, but I knew that something had to change and that level of stress wasn't good for me at the time. So I was able to make a role transition at the practice where I was working. And initially, so I was working in Iowa, and Iowa is the breadbasket of the world there in the Midwest. And um, one thing that was very apparent in the large OBGYN practice where I worked is that um, obesity and weight gain was a huge health impact for the childbearing population, for women trying to get pregnant,
Absolutely.
wanting to have a healthy pregnancy, wanting to get back to a healthy weight afterwards, and then, navigating menopause and all of the risks that come with that. Weight was such an important factor. So I was able to do a little bit of a pivot and begin a medical weight management program for our OBGYN practice. And that was my primary focus for about, 5 or 6 years. We had a move to Florida during that time. I got a couple extra advanced degrees, and I was working for a physician managing, running his medical weight management program. And it's, again, transformative work for people. Anybody who has struggled with weight across their lifetime, um, they get it. When they can finally find tools that work, so they can get on top of that and begin to feel better, move better, sleep better, perform better, it is truly life changing. So I don't want to cast shade on that work. It's important work for the people who need it, but it just wasn't quite enough. And I had so many women at the time coming into me who were going through perimenopause, and I was practicing within these protocols that were medical weight management. And I really felt like my hands were a little bit tied behind my back about, the conversations we could have in those 20-minute visits and what women really needed. And it wasn't the first time I had thought about starting my own practice. Um, but, that combined with some other life changes, including the fact that I was becoming a grandmother. My
Oh, that's
oldest
exciting.
daughter and husband announced that they were expecting their first child. And, what I wanted to be able to be as a grandmother is somebody who could be more present than a full-time job across the country
Exactly.
allowed. So the timing was right in many ways. And so I opened my own practice with a longevity focus in women's health 2 years ago.
That is wonderful. And where is your practice? It's in Iowa or Florida?
I'm in Florida now. I'm in
Florida.
Braden, just outside of Sarasota.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so kind of moving into women's wellness and the hormones kind of thing, I want to know, why do you think so many women today feel so exhausted and overwhelmed and disconnected from themselves?
Whew, that's a huge question.
It is
And,
fully
you
loaded.
know, because we're talking about women in general, and
Yeah.
it's women across the lifespan. Exhaustion and overwhelm, my core belief around that is that it stems so much from the world that we live in that
Right.
is
Society
so incredibly, um,
demanding.
demanding. I mean, I don't have to describe it to you because you live that reality too, that, I my phone is on me, 18 hours a day, and I go for a walk with my AirPods in, and, and I know better, and yet I'm constantly connected, something signaling me, demanding my attention, meetings, calendars, notifications, e and that's just,
Yeah.
the digital world. Our sleep is impacted by that, our relationships are impacted by that, and I believe that that level of stress just begins to wear away at us on a level that impacts our health that we don't clearly understand. I think when I say the word stress, like everybody thinks we're talking about the same thing, but what you're thinking about when I say stress is probably a little bit different than what I think about when I say the word stress. So, getting on the same page about what is stress and what does it do to us and what does stress management even mean, that's a whole conversation. But I really think that that's, what it comes down to, that we're all doing the best we can. There's a lot of striving. A
True.
lot of, we're very achievement oriented. I was talking to someone yesterday who was comparing the that is in the US versus, like, in Europe, and she said,
So different.
spoken to someone from France, like, they're not all about, self-improvement because they're perfect just the way they are, and I thought, "Oh,
Different mindset.
how lovely of a worldview." Like, here, so many of, the people that I interact with are constantly striving
Right, the
for
pressures of like, the societal pressures are just
we wanna be more,
profound.
do more, accomplish more. Um, I've wandered off a bit, but,
No, no.
I think those are tied together in subtle and important ways, that
Mhm.
there's a lot of demand on us that we buy into, and when we don't have an awareness of those demands, they impact our health.
Absolutely. What do you think some signs would be that women should not ignore when it comes to hormonal and metabolic health?
Okay, so let's divide these up and talk about them separately. So metabolic health, um, certainly, because they're very interrelated in the female body. Do you remember the song that we all sang in grade school, "The knee bones connect
Oh,
to
yeah.
the."
Yeah.
Okay, I love it because that is true, and, you just need, like, one advanced physiology class to understand everything is connected.
Connected.
Okay, so if we're talking cardiometabolic health, we're talking hormones too, they play together, and sometimes not nicely. Okay, so let's talk about metabolic health first. What we shouldn't ignore is the weight gain that starts to happen around our midsection. And here's why. Not because of the scale, but when our hormones are starting to change in perimenopause, women suddenly start developing belly fat where previously women put fat on their hips and in their breasts. So when you have rounder hips and breasts, that's colloquial term, that's fertile fat, that's healthy fat. There's nothing unhealthy about having extra fat in those areas on the female body. When we start to accumulate fat around our midsection, that is, again, a colloquial term would be dangerous fat, heart attack fat. That's visceral fat is a
Visceral. Yeah.
term that people are starting to hear and understand. Visceral fat is fat that's accumulating in places where it's not healthy for it to be, and it acts very differently in our body. So the reason I think this is important is not because of the scale and not because it's going to mean sizing up your jeans. It's because that is inflammatory fat, and it tells us something about insulin resistance in your body that you need to be aware of, because that is where your risks start to accumulate. And the trickle down effect from that can be seen in multiple areas. So when you become insulin resistant, it becomes harder to lose weight and maintain a healthy weight. You are suddenly on the trajectory for diabetes. You're likely to be losing muscle. Your cardiovascular risk increases, and your dementia risk begins to increase as well. So, I mean, these are, and I left out cancer risk. Right,
It's
these are the, Dr. Peter Attia refers to them as the four horsemen, like, what that's a kind of a morbid term, but it's, what are the things that we die of in this country?
true.
Women, number one killer, not breast cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's and dementia, cancer. We're not gonna live forever.
Right.
We have to die of something eventually.
What does
And
add into it? Yeah.
I mean, these are the conversations that I have with patients every day. I want to help them kick that can down the road as far as possible. We're all probably going to eventually have some mild dementia as we age, some blood sugar dysregulation as we age. Because we have to die of something, our bodies will gradually stop working as well. But we want to kick that can down the road,
Right, absolutely.
stay as robust as possible. So we can't ignore those early warning signs. That or one of the earliest signs, that belly fat deposition. Like, let's pay attention to that, not because of your gene size, but
Not for
because
vanity's sake, but
of
for
eating
true
for your
health.
longevity. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So how much do you think that stress actually is impacting our hormones and overall health?
It's a player.
Is it a big one?
It is a big one. And yet I think, again, I think that it's poorly understood. So one thing that I joke about with my patients is like, oh, you're under a lot of stress. Let me just write you a prescription to retire to, like, it's
Yeah.
Portugal or wherever. And here I'll include pool boy included.
Oh,
Let's just,
perfect.
like, check stress off our list. Like, we can't do that. Most of us, we wear a lot of hats, and we wouldn't want to give them up. Right?
Exactly.
We live the lives that we chose most of the time, and although stress is high, some of it is good stress, some of it keeps us up at night. So, how much is stress playing into the full equation when stress means that we are walking around most of the day in a state of sympathetic activation?
Okay.
Then our blood pressure is likely impacted by that. Our blood sugar is likely impacted by that. Our sleep is likely impacted by that. And then our performance the next day is going to be
Right.
so it just becomes a cascade.
Just
So
snowballs.
it absolutely does. So now I think we all understand that different people react to stress in different ways. Some people choose to fly jets. They have high stress load, but they're just like, you know, they're just good with it.
Right.
They
Totally
with it.
comfortable.
Some people are brain surgeons. That's a high stress load, right?
Absolutely.
And they chose that. They thrive on it. And some people, um, again, not to cast shade, some people are librarians. Very different in terms of like what does the actual reality of their, scary stress load look like? And yet, how they're reacting to it may look very similar. Like the librarian may come in and be in a state of activation that looks like she's living in a war zone
Right.
because of how she's reacting in her body to, you know, whatever is on her to-do list that day.
Absolutely.
So it's not so much what is the stress in our environment, but how we learn to react to it, how we learn to let it roll off of us,
Yeah.
how we learn to bring things down a notch throughout the day so that we're not staying in that state of activation and we can actually, end our workday, have downtime, fall asleep, stay asleep.
Right. Okay. Now I'm curious to know, do you think that mindset has a play at all in healing?
100%.
Yeah.
And there's
What role do you think it has?
I mean, I think to make it as black and white as possible, if you didn't believe that you had any chance of surviving an illness, would you take any action in the direction of trying to heal? If you had if you were given 0% chances, at what point do you just say, "Okay, let me write my will,"
Mhm.
right? "Let me get my affairs in order." If you're given a 10% chance or a 50% chance or a 90% chance, like, "Phew, I've got this licked. The odds are in my favor." So, I mean, how much of that is mindset?
Exactly.
This has been studied.
Right?
There have been fascinating studies over the years where people are given false information about a diet.
Exactly, and how quickly it can affect you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, yes. And I think the slippery slope or kind of the tread carefully area around that is that I see very clearly how, especially chronic disease, is correlated with depression, anxiety,
Right.
mental
Yeah.
health issues. And I never want to be in a position where I am putting blame on my patient,
Right.
right, for her not having this ideal mindset in the face of disease, because the depression is part of the disease process.
Exactly.
Becomes a really, horrible feedback loop, and if we can intervene at some point and help them, then I think that there's a lot of opportunity for improvement, but the risk is that it turns into a blame the blame
Yeah.
the victim situation
Flipping the
around my.
victim card. Yeah. Okay. So what would you say to the woman who feels like she's doing everything right, but still feels burnt out?
So she is.
It feels like she's doing it all, like she's doing the right things, but is like, why am I still burnt out?
Well, I guess I would want to hear from her, what is it? What does that mean to her? What does burnt out mean? What is she actually feeling? No energy? How's
Mhm.
she sleeping? How old is she? What's actually going on in her life? Like, if I think let's get some data, and individualize it uh, because I've had that exact conversation with a 26-year-old taking her first professional job in nursing.
Right.
And, she's so burnt out, but what's going on with her health-wise and big picture-wise is, a complete 180 from what's happening in a 53-year-old CEO of a bank with 2 college-age kids and a marriage that's crumbling
Right.
and a mom who has to go into long-term care.
Right. Those
Er
factors.
Right, and what else could be going on? Maybe that 53-year-old has had, like, really irregular periods for a few years in perimenopause, and now, like, there could be real physiologic reasons why she's burnt out. Maybe she's got some subclinical anemia. Maybe she's developing hypothyroidism. Does she have sleep apnea? I mean, are there real physical reasons behind what she's reporting as burnout? Let's make sure there's nothing physical going on that we can address, and let's see how good we can get her feeling. But then let's really do a deep dive on, how is she what are the tools she's using to manage stress in her life? And let's put some of those tools in her toolkit.
Absolutely. So how can women begin trusting their bodies again? So like instead of feeling like it often feels like your body's working against you. So how can we as women like start to begin to trust our bodies again?
That is a really tough question, Amanda. You're challenging me. Um, because again, I don't think that there's a universal answer. Like, where did the where did the trust breakdown begin? Uh, One trend that I see, and it's unfortunate, um, is because we all have access to health information 24/7, and we're all many of us exposing ourselves to social media all day long, and everyone on social media is an expert.
Right.
Some of them
So far.
are,
And some of them aren't.
but they all are there because they have something to sell us. They have something to sell me and you. And how do I sell something to you, Amanda? I have to lead you to believe that you have a problem for which I
Something's
have a
wrong. Yep.
yes. So, some of learning to trust ourselves again may mean should put the phone down.
Absolutely.
Listen to your own body. Stop letting other people feed lies into your head about, what your body should or shouldn't be doing. My feed right now is packed full of hair loss treatments because I happen to be a 55-year-old female. And I
Right.
get a lot of questions about that from my patients, so my phone's listening all the
I'm
time.
like, your phone is definitely listening to you.
Listening. Um, and you know what? I don't have hair loss. My hair is fine. But guess what? I did ask my hairdresser at the last appointment. It's like, "Do I need to be worried? Do you see any issues?" Because it was getting in my head.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, so how do we part of beginning to trust ourselves is let's let's step away from the gram, step away from the TikTok, and I mean, that's at least a start, but, uh, we have to be much more aware as consumers that any health information that we're getting through social media is part of somebody's marketing strategy.
Always keep that in the back of your head.
Absolutely.
I definitely catch myself, watching things and be like, "Whoa, I think they're selling me something." Like, I have to be careful of that, be mindful.
And it's unfortunate because, I have a medical practice and social media had at least until now and hopefully for the immediate future is free in terms of advertising. I can get on and I can create a little educational reel every day if I want to. And if you want to watch it, it's free for you to do it. It's free for me to provide it to you. So and the word on the street is if we're not on social media, we're missing
We're
the
missing
bus
out, yeah, we're missing out somehow.
there. We have to be there. I'm not convinced, but you know, there are legitimate healthcare providers, legitimate scientists who are there actually really just trying to share information. They're trying to be a voice in the darkness. Um, and, as consumers of health information, we're left to try to navigate that.
Right, try to differentiate who means what they're saying and who's trying to get something,
Who are
out of
the
you.
guys? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. So I was wondering, what has your own personal wellness journey taught you?
Well, I think it's taught me a couple of things. Number one, that family history and genetics are they're important. They are for many of us, they are the blueprint, if we can use that as a metaphor. Um, but they are not our destiny. There are a few genetic disorders where inheriting a specific gene is very meaningful in terms of what's going to happen with your health. But the vast majority of health issues that we deal with, especially in this country, are driven far more by lifestyle and the choices that we make than by the genetic blueprint we inherited. So we've got genes and then we've got the environment that washes over those genes.
Yeah, the environment's big too.
And this has been my um my health journey because I did not inherit the best genes. I have two parents who died very young, my mom in her early 40s, my dad in his early 50s. If I just took that as like, well, that's what I got, that's what I got, I would have thrown in the towel a long time ago. But from a very young age, I realized like the cards are not stacked in my favor. I need to be really diligent about forming some healthy habits and behaviors that will preserve and protect my health. None of us know how long we have. And for me, like choosing how I'm going to react and interact with the world in a very diligent, deliberate way, that's been my health story. Making those choices because I feel in many ways when you have a family history that's a mess, that you're just it's like kind of an uphill battle.
Really is.
Yeah. Um, And that may be a little bit vague, but I think that's one of the most important personal health journeys.
No, that's perfect. So to wrap up here, I want to know if some listening today, if they're feeling disconnected, exhausted, kind of stuck in survival mode, what's one thing that you would want them to remember?
Well, if they're feeling disconnected, I think the most important thing is connection. Because trying to navigate this on your own, no matter what this is,
Right.
'cause and this is a generic scenario. I don't know who this
Yep.
person is. I don't know what she's dealing with. But disconnected alone, like whether she means to say, I feel disconnected from myself. I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't even recognize myself,
Right.
or I feel alone in the world. Both of those speak to the need for help. And there are people who can help. And I would urge her to find them, whether that is, somebody to help with mental health, or somebody to help, you know, walk through her labs with her and look at her health history and help her plot a path forward to, wake up in the morning and feel like herself again, that she's not alone. There is a path forward. So, um, like I don't want anybody to feel disconnected.
It's a good ending for this, that, we want connection. We need connection. And when we go through these type of things in life, we do need to remember that, staying disconnected is disconnected. We need to connect with people to get the help. And there are lots of resources out there. And I'm going to make sure that I put some links in the bio here, for our guests to be able to connect with you if they'd like to. And overall, I have just enjoyed this little chat, Rachel. This has been very nice. I've loved your perspective. So interesting, your history of, being a nurse with midwife and then moving in all these different avenues. It's been fantastic chatting with you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me, Amanda.